Hey, Snow,
Hey, MJ.
we've got a very special guest this week.
Very
Yes,
special.
running for Congress in District 9 of Arizona against
Against
Paul Gosar.
Gosar. We
Yes,
thank you for that already.
yes, Mr. Quacy Smith, welcome to the podcast.
Good evening, and it's good to be here with you folks. And again, I hope you're having a great Sunday, enjoying some of this better weather.
Yes, it has cooled down a little bit.
It's getting nice.
How about for you down in Buckeye?
It's been nice. It's supposed to warm up over a few days this week, but I guess it's supposed to go back down by Thursday. But it's been gorgeous. Just wonderful.
Yeah. So, can we start off by telling us a little about yourself and why you decided to run against Paul Gosar?
Sure, absolutely. Well, again, to all of the viewers out, my name is Quacy Smith. I am the nominee, the Democratic nominee for Congress in the 9th Congressional District, which is, of course, up in everything from Glendale Stadium, where the Cardinals play, Buckeye, Goodyear, Surprise, Wickenburg, all the way out to Blythe, California. Down to Yuma, to the Mexico border, all the way up north, up to past Meadview, up to the Colorado-Utah border up there. It also includes the area where you folks are in Kingman and Bullhead City out in that area, Lake Havasu, Mojave County. I am a West Sider by birth. I'm actually raised in Blythe, California, so this whole west side of the state of Arizona is, of course, not foreign to me at all. I grew up in it. I'm a rural kid. Although I live in the city now, I'm a country boy by heart, rural young boy. In fact, my mother still lives out in Blythe, California. I was out in La Paz County and in Blythe yesterday. Just, you know what I mean? So this is not uncommon to me. Not some city slicker. But I was raised out there, from humble beginnings, small family, raised on welfare and food stamps, literally, and just worked my way. Graduated high school with a 1.9 grade point average and just worked my way through the Marine Corps. I was a police officer there for a number of years in Blythe, California, graduated the Academy #1, and went on to law school. Became a lawyer, owned a law firm downtown in Phoenix, one of the faster growing minority and veteran-owned law firms in the state of Arizona. And we've done, great work for folks, some pretty high-profile cases and whatnot. And that's where I am. I live in Buckeye. I'm not some transplant person from Prescott or
Right.
Tucson. No, I've never lived any further east than Avondale, Arizona. And so I am a West Sider native, and my children go to school out here to the public schools, and I employ people here, and all of that. I don't know that I ever had any political aspirations. I didn't grow up thinking, hey, one day I'm going to be president of the United States. That never really crossed my mind, or run for Congress, none of that. But when I saw the trajectory of our country, the politics, the extremes on both sides. Both sides have them. I think, some of the extremes on the right seems to be more pronounced and more loud, but there are extremes in both parties. It's one of those calls to duty again. I swore years ago, 1994, 95, swore to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And when you see the principles and practices of the Constitution being challenged by people, by individuals, it's a call to duty. I never took my oath back. I never said, okay, I'm done doing this. And I've taken that oath several times as a police officer, as a Marine, United States Marine, as an officer of the court, as a trial lawyer. I've taken that oath as a federal investigator when I worked for the EEOC. I've taken that oath several times. I meant it then and I meant it now. When I saw what unfolded on January 6th, 2021, and particularly our congressman, Paul Gosar, literally stand on the floor of the United States Capitol in the House of Representatives and tell them to not count the votes of more than 3.4 million Arizona citizens, voters, tax-paying, law-abiding people, to tell them, carte blanche, don't count any of their votes. That's not a partisan problem. That's a problem for every voter in this state. Should be a problem for every American across this country. And folks like that simply don't need to be in Washington, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. And so my law school professor actually came to me and said, you need to consider running for Congress. And I said, what do you mean? She said, you need to consider. I said, I don't. I said, I don't think that I'm the guy for the job. She said, have you looked at your resume lately? The years of ministry experience, your military, your police, you're exactly what that district needs. You're not an extremist. You're very balanced. You have an approach that can reach both sides, and working across the aisle. And this is who you are. This is what you've done your whole life. And so she asked me to consider it. And I prayed about it. I talked with my family, Tiffany and the kids, my mom, my sister, people that are important to me. And the answer came out. When I kept saying, why me? The answer came back to me, why not you? You're the right person for this moment that allow this district and the country and our state some time to heal and move forward and come together and work. And so that's an abridged answer, to the question of how I wound up the nominee. Yeah.
Wow.
For the United States Congress.
I totally agree with her. I'm like, listening to your resume, I'm like, wow, what an impressive resume.
Yeah, sometimes it's shocking when I'm all of these events and stuff that I show up at and have to speak at, and podcast events like this, when they start reading out all of the stuff, it's humbling. Some people would pound their chest and say, it's me, elect me, I can fix it, I have all of the answers. I don't have all of the answers. I don't think it's all about me. I think it's about the 800,000 people that live in this district that need adequate representation. So when I hear people talking about the things that I've accomplished in life, it's humbling. It reminds me to stay rooted and grounded and to do the right thing for people and to keep serving. And so it's very humbling. I shouldn't be here based on statistics, where I came from and how I grew up. I probably should be in jail facing felony charges or not even eligible to vote because I'm a felon. But because of good fortune, the grace of God, hard work, and a bunch of people around me that love me and support me, that's why I'm here today. And so I'm humbled.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your service, too.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was an honor to do it. Best times of my life in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. So touching on that point, working across the aisle, which is, we believe, is very important, and we do see the gridlock in Congress about getting anything accomplished on it. How do you solve that, though?
Sure. Excellent question, and it points to a real problem. We have not seen this in some time. And the way you solve it, it's not complicated. You send the people home that don't want to work across the aisle. Mm-hmm. The check and balance to that is not the presidency. The check and balance to folks in Congress not working together is not the Supreme Court. There is no checks and balances for this within the Congress or the Senate. They're not going to police themselves. The people, the voters, have the sole power to check and balance the need for bipartisan work in the House and in the Senate. And if the people don't check it, it will go unchecked. And that is what has happened for the last, at least last couple of decades. And it's becoming increasingly worse since 9/11. You started to see it really harden up some, because of the differences of people's opinions about the terrorist attack on 9/11, which we always celebrate those heroes and firefighters at the time. But under President Bush's presidency, you saw it start to harden up. And then subsequent to the Bush White House, then you have the first black president. And things started to tighten up a little bit because there were people that were dead set on making sure that he was going to be a failure. And I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Part of it was because of his race, not just his party. And they were thinking, can you imagine just, less than, 15 years ago, remember, they were talking about he should step down from being the president. What's Barack Obama? He should step down from being the president because he wore a tan suit to a press conference.
No, yeah. That was so ridiculous.
He was unfit to be president because he was sitting in a church service where a pastor said too much and said one or two degrading things about the nation. These were damnable things. 15, and now to see what has been allowed and normalized is quite quite shocking for those of us that were alive to witness them. And so, again, to your question, how do you fix it? The people have to fix it. Every voter, whether you're independent, Republican, or Democrat, your priority should be, can this person work across the aisle? Does this person have the capacity, because it takes capacity, to work across the aisle, to put people above party, to put country above party? And whether they're a Democrat or a Republican, if they don't have the ability to do that, they should not be there, because they're not going to help move the country in the direction that it needs to go. And that is the direct answer to that. The people have to do it.
Yeah, and it seems like Mr. Gosar is, it feels to me like he only represents 50% of us.
Like the people who follow him.
Represents 50% of us.
Right.
I think Mr. Gosar is an antidote of, he is a symptom of conjecture that has been lambasted across this country for several years. And that conjecture is that Republicans are the enemy of Democrats and Democrats are the enemy of Republicans. I'm a Democrat. I'm a moderate Democrat. I have no problem in saying I am a moderate Democrat. But I want to say very clearly and succinctly, we need a strong Republican Party, just like we need a strong Democratic Party. We need a strong swath of independent voters, because when we put them all together, they balance each other out. But when I say strong, I don't mean in the sense of stand your ground politics. That's what we have to get away from, stand your ground politics, and focus on middle ground politics. Not where we dig our heels in the sand because of the ideologies of our political groups, but that we learn how to work together and come to the middle and get things resolved. And Paul Gosar is simply a system of that. Paul Gosar has been in office in 2010, that's what I believe. And I can count on my hands the things that he's done that has helped the citizens in this district. He's gotten caught up in a whole lot of fights. He's participated in this insurrection, but indirectly, and some believe directly. Time will tell that. He stood up and said, don't count 3.4 million American folks' votes. He's taken credit for stuff that has happened at the Kingman Airport up there that he voted against. He visits veterans, VFWs and other veterans facilities and shared them. But every time there's an opportunity to vote for something that supports veteran activities, you have to take my word for it. Go look at the record. He votes against it. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, because it's an election year, he wants to have Social Security roundtables across the district when he's voted against protecting Social Security a number of times. He's one of those guys that's not going to work across the aisle. And whether President Trump ends up winning the election or Vice President Harris ends up winning the election, he's not going to work across the aisle with anybody. He's sold into an ideology that restricts him. Some people simply lack the capacity to work across the aisle. Paul Gosar is one of them. And this is not a Democrat problem. This is an American problem. It's a problem for Republicans. In fact, for Paul Gosar, it's not a Republican. Paul Gosar is a problem. That's who he is. He's a problem. That's who he's been a problem. And like my mom says, you got to call a spade a spade. The man's a problem. He's not going to work across the aisle, and he's not going to do anything good to benefit the folks in the district.
Even his own family talks about how he is a problem. I mean, his one brother, I've listened to his brother a few times. He'll call into the progressive radio stations and talk to them. And he's even gone so far as to say that he believes his brother is mentally ill, like has a serious problem.
Yeah, there has been the family, and this is not the first time they've spoken out against him. But even in this election, the family members, they've told voters, they've told the nation, he doesn't need to be there. And again, like I said, there's two things. I'm tread lightly when it comes down to folks' family. I respect their opinion about their brother, and if anybody knows them they should. I don't believe in playing with folks' families because, at some point, he's going to need a family to go home to if the folks do what they need to do, the voters do what they need to do in this election. And I'm hoping and praying that his family somehow is amended, because they are brothers and sisters. I think there's a greater, light that we all have to ascend to regarding that. If he's unhealthy, which he clearly is, there's some health issues there, it's not something I've made up. You can just look at the videos and, and all of that stuff because I'm speaking. There's some health issues there, whether they're mental issues or degenerative issues. I have no idea. And I pray for him every day. I want him, whole and healed and healthy and all of those things. And I've been, but my statement beyond all of that is the man don't need to be in Washington. I want you healthy.
Right.
I want you whatever this is with your family. I agree with them. You're not doing any good. But I want you to be able to reconcile yourself to your family. But you don't need to be in Washington because of what we have seen and what we have witnessed. And it is dereliction of every voter's duty to keep sending this man to Washington that does not need to be there. Let me give you an example. Folks on the right, many people are saying Joe Biden, he's too old to serve. He's not well. He's not mentally capable. He's not well. But the same folks that said Joe Biden was not physically up to the challenge watched Mitch McConnell on national TV freeze up several times and never said a word. They watched Paul Gosar go to the House of Representatives. You don't got to take my word for it. Just go look at the videos. They're out there on YouTube. And so the man's physically not well. Why are we? And these same folks are the ones that claim to be evangelical Christians. Well, if they would pick up that Bible and read it, they would understand that one of the things that God hates, according to Scripture, is an unjust balance and unfairly measuring people, using one tool of measurement for one people and another tool of measurement for the other people. There's a lot of duplicity that happens. And so if there are health issues and mental health, which there are, send the man home. But beyond all of that, it's his record and his inability to work with other people and work across the aisle. He's prioritizing things that is taking money out of taxpayers' pockets. The time that he spent writing that bill, he wrote a bill recently, in the last few months, to create a $500 bill and put Donald Trump's name and face on it.
Oh, geez.
The time that he spent writing a bill to create a $500 bill, which is unnecessary. And mind you, how is you've been talking about how horrible the economy is and what you think Joe Biden and Vice President Harris did. Why are you creating a $500 bill? We can't afford $500 bills if the economy is bad as you all saying it is.
Right.
Two of these things don't match up. You know what I mean? We're broke, but you're making $500 bills. But the time that he spent writing that bill for Donald Trump's face on a $500 bill was time that could have been spent writing a bill that makes sure that those kids up there in Meadview, Arizona, up there north of Kingman and Bullhead, right where you are, that they have internet in their homes so that they don't have to stay at the school to access internet. You could have spent that time writing a bill that got some money and funding for infrastructure up to those kids at that school so they don't have to get out of school and stay at school so they can do their homework. So they don't have to come to the school to get food and school supply. You could have spent that time writing that bill instead of writing for a $500 bill for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking along those terms, I read his newsletter just because I like to be informed, and it's just always awful. What do you think we can do to bring down, turn down the temperature of the political rhetoric and even violence that has been going on?
Sure. I said this was months before the attempted assassination of former President Trump. And I am grateful that he is okay and that he's well. And again, we don't voice our differences with bullets. We do it with balance. We don't do it with violence. We do it with votes. And I want to be clear about that. I condemn it on all sides. And earnestly grateful that President Trump is healthy. We need to get rid of that whole concept. But I said this months before this happened. We were at a campaign event, and I saw it coming. I said, we are witnessing the normalization of political violence, and we're watching groups of people be radicalized into their ideologies, and we're in dangerous territory. Some people say, "Where if President Trump is not elected, where it's World War III?" I don't agree with that, but I do agree that we are at a temperature level in our country, in our politics and stuff, where it's dangerous. We might be on the precipice of a civil war or civil unrest, I should say, but we're in dangerous territory, and so to turn it down again. The citizens deserve politicians that are reasonable, responsible, and sensible. I'm going to say it again. The people deserve politicians that are reasonable. I mean, they can work together. Responsible, that take responsibility for that, and that are sensible, that stay away from nonsensical things. And this is what we don't have. We don't have it in our district. Paul Gosar is none of those things. He's not reasonable, he's not responsible, and he's not sensible. I've even told Republican voters, listen, for this election, just this one in the next 45 days, I'm the better choice. For the Democrat, the Republican, the Independent, I'm the better choice. Hands down. Now, next election, 2 years from now, got to run again. Go find you a reasonable, responsible, sensible Republican. And can I say, I'll admit it to you, there's a good chance that in the election in 2026, I'll lose because the Republicans still outnumber Democrats in this district. But go get someone that's worthy of the office, that's worthy of the vote, that's not sold to political ideas. And guess what? If that person comes in and beats me in 2026 and I lose the election, guess what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to overturn an election. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to say don't count their votes. I'm going to concede, shake his hand or her hand, and say, you know what, go forward and do the good work of the people, and I'm going to bring my behind right back here to Buckeye and keep living my life and be grateful that the people gave me an opportunity to serve.
And
turn it down? Go ahead.
What is their response to that when you tell Republicans this? Because I think it sounds very reasonable. I mean,
they agree.
Okay,
they
good.
Agree. I cannot tell you the number of Republicans that I've spoken to across this district that said, Mr. Smith, I am not a Democrat. I have never voted for a Democrat in my life, but I'm voting for you because you are what we need there. And you know what my promise was back to them? And I promise you can depend on me. I'm not going to embarrass you. I'll be someone you can introduce your grandchild to. I'm not running to the extreme left. I'm not running to the extreme right. I think there are some good ideas that come off of both sides, but I am a safe space for independent voters and for Republican voters, for straightable Republican voters, for Democratic voters that need us, that's ready to move on. And I can't count one person that I've said that to that said, you're crazy. They tell me, they say, your political life is going to be short-lived. I said, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Because I don't have any ambitions to be anything other than a representative for people. To this day, I haven't taken or received a dime from the Democratic Party. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I've been told that by some folks in the party that my positions aren't far left enough. You know what I told them? Thank you, but no thank you. I live in the 9th Congressional District. It is a more conservative district. It is, but there are Democrats and independents and Republicans out there. They don't want the extremes. They want to get back to middle ground politics. They want to move the country forward to the middle. And me not being extreme enough to the left is not, then I'm not your guy. But there's some people out in the 9th District that are ready for reasonable, responsible, sensible leadership and representation. And so you turn this stuff down. Again, it goes down to the people that you sit there. You have to know how to go fight for the issues. But fight doesn't mean unnecessarily quarreling. They talk about, the economy. Just imagine they say, how are we going to get the money to pay for the border? Just imagine if we got all of the money back that we've spent on congressional inquiries into impeaching people that we ain't gonna ever impeach. Stuff, all the money that we spent talking about Joe Biden's son and all of this stupid stuff. Mm-hmm. Millions of dollars spent on stuff that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Imagine if we sent that to the school district up in Kingman. Now we can get. Imagine if we spent that money and built a VA hospital up in Kingman so that the people, these folks up in Kingman don't have to drive all the way to Vegas, our veterans, to see a doctor, drive 3 hours to Phoenix. Imagine if we spent that money doing that and stopped playing games with the people. Just imagine.
Yeah, it'd be so much better.
You already had our votes. You already had our votes, but you are winning us so much far over by this.
I know. I can't wait to vote for you.
And I don't need any talking points. I don't need a teleprompter. And I'm just telling you, when you've been like I have, I've been on both sides of the tracks. Again, I've been on welfare and food stamps, and I've been broke, and I've been homeless. And I've been all of those things before. But to own a law firm downtown, my name is on the sign downtown Central Avenue, a building moniker. Now, you could have never told me, after the life that I've lived, growing up in poor. I'm not talking about middle class. I didn't grow up in no middle class family like the vice president. I was poor. I was on the other side of the tracks. But to see how hard work and working with other people and doing the right thing could to bring you to a place where you're the nominee for an entire political party in the district, it's pretty humbling. And again, it's from my heart. It's what I believe, and it's what I believe that most Americans believe. We're ready to move forward.
Yeah. Okay, well, my partner Snow is a Teamster, and she had a question for you.
I was wondering what your position is on right to work, since Arizona has always been a right to work state.
Sure. So let me just say, I support unions. Mm-hmm. I think they're necessary. In fact, a part of my work, even at the EEOC, we have. Well, first of all, we had unions. I was one of the union stewards, and then also we did cases and litigation about unions when they were forced. They didn't do their jobs. First of all, the unions didn't do their job as it relates to those folks that were union members. Mm-hmm. And right to work laws are based on this idea that employees should have the freedom to choose whether or not to join a union, and it literally, it's a battle of whether you're strengthening the workers or strengthening corporations. And the principle of it is this, is that workers need to be able to organize in whichever way they feel is necessary to make sure that they're paid fairly, treated fairly, got working conditions that are necessary. They shouldn't be blindly shoved into these working conditions that make corporations and folks rich, and they're treated less favorable. And so they should be able to organize to go to the table with more bargaining power to get proper working conditions. I am a supporter and a proponent of that. And I think if we do that, when you strengthen the American worker and the middle class, I think you have a stronger America.
Yeah, I was very disheartened recently with, I'm sure you heard that the Teamsters decided they would not be endorsing at all. And one of the things that really struck me the most was it showed what I have been complaining about my own union for years, is I really think that unions need to do a better job of education, because I think that's what it showed, was how uneducated and maybe how some of our members don't pay attention, because the fact that the Biden administration, that includes Kamala Harris, saved the pensions, and then some of the members went around and did this. They voted they first endorsed Biden, and then when Biden passed the torch, we were asked to scan and vote again on our preference, and they turned around and endorsed Trump, and I just...
Yeah. I've heard some of the outcry. Of course, we get, briefings and stuff from our staff, and you see the outcry, and I do agree with you wholeheartedly. They can do a better job at educating union members as to what the policies are out there and the effect that these policies will have on them, or what an administration in this particular case has done to support the effects of the workplace and the economy upon unions. They should do a much better job in that. And I also think there is some under-organization in unions. There's a difference between being gathered and being assembled. Gathered is you just got a collection of a bunch of people, and then the standard MIU or MOUs and grievance processes, and your steward and all of that stuff is fine. But when I say organize or assemble yourselves, because if they would do it, the amount of voice, I should say, that they would have concerning the passing of some of these laws and in elections, because if they get together, they comprise the majority of the American workforce, the labor force, and when you put them all together, they're a very strong voice. But everybody has to get in sync and get in a rhythm. Not just the lobbyists, from the top to the bottom, from the newest union member to the union president. Everybody has to get together because it matters, and we're going to see it's going to be a telltale. I think this endorsement is going to matter one way or another in this election.
Yeah.
Another thing that's coming up on the Arizona ballot this year is, women's reproductive rights. And what's your stance on that?
So I want to be one of the questions that I'm often asked is about that, especially because of my work in ministry. I still serve in the ministry of a bishop in the church, still to this day, and they ask me, why do you balance that out as being a minister, a man of the cloth, or, they would say, and being your position. And I say, well, first of all, let's be clear about one thing. I'm not running for office to be your pastor. Number one, I'm not running for office to be your evangelist or your bishop or any of that stuff. If you want that side of me, come to the church on Sunday. I have a doctorate in theological philosophy. I like my grandmother used to say, I know how to tell the story. And so I preach hope and faith to you. But when it comes down to this issue of reproductive rights, I want to make a very clear statement. I, Quacy Smith, am pro-choice, period. I think a woman should have a right to choose what happens with her body within a reasonable framework of law. And this is not just me. The majority of Americans agree with what I'm saying. Give us a reasonable framework. That framework was wrong. That's what it was. The framework was wrong. Give us a reasonable framework. They have this concept under Roe called the concept of viability and all that. Give us a framework and give patients, women, doctors, whatever their religious advisors are, whether you're Christian or Muslim or Baptist or Jewish or atheist, to make decisions about her body within a reasonable framework. And there is no conflict of faith. I don't think that the evangelicals or white evangelicals or whomever it is should be able to hijack a whole issue. Because even from a theological perspective, and I'll challenge any Christian on this, God himself never removed choice from people. Never. He told Adam and Eve in the garden, for those that believe in creationism as the Bible records it, all of these trees in the garden you can eat off of, but these two trees right here don't eat off of them. The day that you eat off of these trees, this is what's going to happen. He tells them in several places, choose you this day whom you're going to serve. Was it going to be this or going to be? God has never. Do you know that you can choose to reject God, choose to reject Christianity, and whatever the outcome of it is what the outcome of it is, based on your faith and tradition. So for us to jump in and say, these folks don't have a right to choose, I think it's against biblical precedent that folks have a right to choose what they want to do with themselves. And And there's a lot of folks that, because I have 3 daughters, and I start thinking about what do I want my 3 daughters to be able to do when it comes down to making decisions about their body. If they were raped by somebody, God forbid, and they come to me and they don't want to, they don't think they have the capacity mentally or whatever it is to keep this child, do I want the Paul Gosar and Carrie Lake having something to say about what happens with my daughter's body? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That needs to be. Now, if there's a problem where she's had a baby and she says, hey, the doctor tells her that something's medically wrong with her or the baby, and there's going to be, that's a conversation to be had in my home with me and her mother, and we're going to pray about it, and we're going to come, and we're going to support, ultimately, her decision about that. But it is not something that warmed over 3-term ineffective politicians, or God knows Carrie Lake, who's running for Senate but still thinks she's the governor of Arizona. These folks don't need to be involved in this at all. It's not, and as a minister, and I say this from I say this from a place because I sat in the hospital room with women in my ministerial capacity that have had to pass fetuses that didn't make it, that were 17 weeks old, 18 weeks old. I've been down there, had to go down there to the hospital with young women that have had to have DNCs because they were tubal pregnancy. I've been there. And this is not something, even as a person that works in the church, I don't want to be involved in that. I was there to pray for them and support them in their decision, and I think the government shouldn't go any further than that. I know the argument out there is, well, we didn't remove abortion, we returned it to the states. That's misleading, okay? That's misleading. What Roe versus Wade did was establish abortion as a right, okay, in the framework of the right to privacy. And then the states always had a say in it because of the medical licensing for the states, wherever the clinics are, how the procedures have to be formed. I mean, there's a number of things that the state had a voice in, but what the state did not have the right to do whether to determine that whether it was a right or not. And so the Dobbs decision was wrong. The Supreme Court erred. And so we need to, and not just abortion rights. We need to promote access to contraception. We don't need to be using abortion as birth control measure, but we need to support access to contraception. The extremes, we're aborting babies at 9 months. I think I heard former President Trump say they're aborting them even after they're born. Well, that's not abortion. That's murder. I mean, come on, let's tell the truth. And that's not happening in America. That's just not happening here, okay? But we need to do that. And we need to support adoption. If we want these folks to have babies, we're not even supporting our adoptive parents and our adoptive process. It takes so much money to adopt a baby that it's not even worth it for adoptive parents anymore. And so there's a lot that we can do, but this concept about reproductive rights is more than abortion. It's about women's health care, up and down. And again, I think we need a reasonable, responsible, sensible framework, give it to the people, and let them make their decisions for their own families. And that's what I think we need to do.
I really like your statement on I've never heard it put that way about the part about God did not remove choice when the arguments brought up about like the religious aspect of it. I've always heard people quoting, it's in the Bible. I can't remember what book it is in the Bible, but the part about where it says that if a woman got pregnant by someone other than her husband, she was supposed to drink like a potion anyways that was to get rid of the fetus. I've heard that argument in there. I've heard people bring that up, but never the one about choice. So, and I never even thought about it that way. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. I mean, I think that one's even more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And even somebody and this is the Bible. The folks that don't read too well shouldn't read too much because they'll read out stuff that's not supposed to be there. Yeah. This is not an common principle that God gives everybody choice and free will. To remove someone's free will is to enslave them, and that's why Man has a free will. You can choose not to go to church. You can choose not to obey God. And most people, and I'm going to say this too, because there's an illusion out there that everybody that is pro-choice is pro-abortion. As a Christian man, I'm not, abortion's not my, if my daughter came to me, her and her boyfriend, she got pregnant, she said, Dad, I just don't want to have this baby because I can't afford it. My counselor to her, as her father and as her pastor, can be like, no. We don't abort baby. This baby's healthy. You're healthy. No medical issues. Don't just abort babies just for the sake of, just because you want birth control, you should have made a better decision. We're not doing that. We're going to put our money together. We're going to help you have this baby, And we're going to, but I'm pro-choice for her. You understand what? Everybody that's pro-choice is not necessarily pro-abortion, but we don't want the government in our doctor's offices. If that same daughter of mine came to me and said, I've been to the doctor, I'm 12 weeks pregnant, the doctor says if I hold this baby, there's a 90% chance that I'm going to die, or 80% chance that the baby's going to be born and not be viable, or going to have health complications and all of that other stuff, then I'm going to sit down with my daughter, have a conversation with her, and her choice is her choice. You understand? It's her choice. That's her choice, and I'll counsel her as to what I think. I'm going to pray with her, and whatever she decides as her father, I'm going to support her in that decision, because her and her doctor has to get together and the father of the child and make a decision. And I think that's the part of the story that's being conflated and not being talked about, is that people want choice.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. A big issue going into this election will be what's going on at the border. And this is just our opinion that we've spouted on this podcast, that by using the term open border, quote unquote, like Paul Gosar seems to do, or calling everyone illegals, that's not really the message, because the border technically isn't wide open like they claim.
You're right. The open border statement is an open lie. That's what it is. That's what it is. You got to call a spade a spade. Paul Gosar and all of his buddies and Kerry and the rest of them, they're lying. That's what that is. The border is not open. The border is not as secure as it could be. And the border is not secure as it would be if they would have let that bill pass through, the one that President Trump killed because he thought it would benefit him politically. The border would be more secure. But to say that the border is open or Democrats want open borders, that's simply not true. The issue with the border thing is the same thing, the issue with abortion. And that is this, is that the only time these folks talk about the border and abortion, like we're on the border, is around election time. Y'all have had 4 years to fix this. The 4 years before that to fix this. And this issue at the border has been an issue since Ronald Reagan's days. It's been an issue. And the only time that everybody seems to be so hurried to come to some type of resolve or put out some policy about it is when it's time for folks to get elected. They make it an issue. It's almost becoming the greatest race-bait race. And when I say race, I'm talking about race, like nationality, national origin of the nation. It's like, let's pick on folks who's coming across the border, folks that are not us, to make it an issue, to make these folks an enemy of us. I grew up in Blythe, California. I was around migrant workers all the time. They worked in the fields out there, pigeon melons and watermelons and honeydew and cantaloupe. And when they grew, corn and all the different things that they grew out in the rural communities. Let me say it straight. Black folks wasn't out in them fields picking that stuff. White folks wasn't out there picking it. Mm-hmm. Really, Mexican Americans weren't out there working in those fields. It were migrant workers that were bussed in from down south at that border, Nogales and San Luis and these other places, that were bussed up into these communities, and these folks would bear the burden heat of the day, 120-degree weather, out there picking, working in the fields, so folks like you and I could sit at the table at night at the restaurant at Sizzlers or Longhorn Steakhouse and have a salad. You know, most of the lettuce that comes across this country comes from right there down in Yuma in our district. And those fields are not tilled by white folks or black folks or Asians or Indians. It's by migrant workers that come from across that border. Go check with the Border Patrol folks down there. They'll tell you, if 2,000 people cross over that border a day, 1,998 of them go back across because they just want to come over, work, and go back across. Most of the illegal immigration in this country is not because of people coming across the border. Most of the illegal immigration of this country is from visa overstays. Mm-hmm. The system is broken. The whole system is broken. Was Donald Trump wrong about needing some wall down there? Absolutely not. I've been down there. There are several areas down there that the most effective and efficient way to secure it is going to be with the wall. Okay? Be clear about that. The president was not wrong about that. Okay? I don't think the president was wrong about the stay in Mexico for right now. You know what I mean? Because to fix it, you're going to need a pause for a minute to get some breathing room, to get a system in place and address those that are here that still need to be processed through the system. So that he wasn't wrong about that. There are some folks that need to go home, back to where they came from. These are the ones that are actual bad folks, okay? But are all of them crime and drugs and thugs and whatever, you know, they're always saying, you know, mentally? No, all of them are not. They're seeking asylum. They're running from bad conditions. Somebody said this to me, you know, one of the folks that are high on those issues, and I kind of chuckled when they said it. They said, oh my God, if Kamala Harris becomes president, I'm moving to France because these conditions are going to be horrible. I said, so you would want to leave the country because the conditions were bad, right? Yeah, it's going to be horrible. It's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, I believe if she becomes president, I said, and you would go to another country. Yeah, but why would you go to that country? Because I think it'll be better over there. I think I have a better chance. I said, so you would want to be able to go there and stay in that country because you felt safe there, right? Yeah. I said, don't you think that's what some of these folks that are coming across the border trying to gather up and do nasty work? That's the same thing, you know. This is what they call seeking asylum. That's what you would do. And when you present it to them like that, I mean, the crickets that you hear is like, no, that's what that is. So if you would want to do it, let's find out who are actual asylum seekers who actually can benefit this whole thing. Paul Gosar's been running around telling this lie that Social Security is crippled because of the border. That's a lie. Mm-hmm. These folks got to contribute to Social Security, and they don't even get the benefit from Social Security. Yeah. Ask people for their money for Social Security. We take it. We take it. Yeah. We take it. They don't get to choose you. We take your money from you. And these folks that are migrants, they are migrant workers, they don't get the benefit from that. But we don't need people that are caught up in the system like we have right now. 16, 18 years trying to get through the process. We need more immigration judges. We need more Border Patrol agents down there. We need some more wall in some areas down there and use some of the technology that we have, like infrastructure, infrared and drones and all of that stuff to keep the border secure. But we need to do it with a humanitarian heart. We need some of these folks for our workforce, and it's going to take bipartisan work. And I'll say this, my last thing about the border. I'm grateful that President Biden signed the executive order. I will say it was too little, too late. He should, as soon as he realized these folks in Congress were not going to do nothing, he should have signed that executive order a long time ago. And I'll stand on that as they sit back home, 10 toes down. Mr. President, you should have did that in your first year in office, as soon as you realized these people weren't going to work with you. But I want to point to a bigger reality, and that is this, is that securing that border and immigration reform is not the job of the president. It is the job of the United States Congress. They need to stop passing a buck and pass a bill that secures that border, get the funding in place to do it, and make sure that that border is secure, fix the asylum and the immigration process from the ground up, and stop putting it at the feet of all of these presidents. This nation was not made to be run by executive orders. And that's why we're all hyped up about the Trump-Harris. The issue is not Trump-Harris. It's the Gosars, the Kerry Lakes, the David Swikers, the Andy Biggs. It is those people that need to be sent home because they're not going to work with anybody, so that we're not having this conversation again 4 years from now at the next presidential election.
Yeah, I don't think they even want to fix it. I think they want to keep it the way it is so they can use it to run on. And because if they really wanted to fix it, couldn't they go after some of the employers who are hiring like the illegal labor? That, I understand the visa part, there's visa workers, but like there's a lot of employers that I believe like exploit these people for cheaper labor too.
Sure, the former president did.
Yeah, exactly.
Call it what it is. The reason why they won't go after them because them are them.
Yeah.
They're them. You and I don't own no company to hire those illegal workers.
Right? No.
Let's tell the truth. They are them. They be cutting off your nose to spite you, but that's a problem because they want it to be a problem. And then they raise it to eye level. Only raise it to eye level during an election, and then they want the heat off of it. It's sad. All of the folks that have been, I'll say this, and this might upset some folks, but you'll be all right. They're prostituting these folks that have been killed at the hands of illegals, or what they call undocumented. I think I saw something about 100 people have been killed by illegals. And I said to myself, well, let me just say this. If we want to do a body count, and we shouldn't have to do this, but for the sake of conversation, let's do a body count. You want to blame, the vice president for the 100 people that were killed, and it's a shame, and we mourn with all of those families, because all of those people should be here. In fact, homicides and stuff across the country, we need to do a better job with law enforcement. But if we wanted to count bodies, let's count all of the people that died from COVID. Mm-hmm. While y'all were telling people to inject themselves with bleach or shine light on their skin. Yep. Let's talk about all of the people that died because you were wanting to fight about a vaccine. Let's talk about all of these people that have been assaulted. Let's talk about the people that were hospitalized when you wanted to pop cans of tear gas to go across the lawn in front of the White House to take a picture in front of a church with a Bible that you were holding upside down. Let's talk about all of the people that have died because they didn't have access to proper OBGYN care because doctors were afraid of these abortion bans. I mean, the numbers won't even add up for the people that have died based on these political ideologies. These aren't policies. This is political ideology that is poisoning the nation. And we need to secure the border. I don't think they wanted to secure. I agree with you. I think it's to their benefit. And it's on the Democrat side too. It's probably in that same bucket. Let's just talk about it until it goes away. That's what it is. Because guess what? The election is November the 5th. By December 15th, everybody's disinterested until the next election. We have I hate to say it, the majority of the electorate is ignorant. They don't keep up. They don't pay attention to politics. They send people to Washington that they trust to be informed about this stuff for them. And guess who we have? Paul Gosar.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Go figure that.
Yeah. All right. One thing, though, to end this with more of a united thing, one thing that we always talk about is around here, we can't talk politics with almost anybody except, our own little bubble. So we find that talking about food is much better. Food. Yeah. So do you have a go-to dish you like to make? Your comfort food.
The boy can cook. I love to cook. Now, I want to say I don't have a whole lot of time like I used to, especially now to cook. But I love to cook. In fact, Tiffany doesn't take me to the grocery store with her, and I'm the one with the second basket throwing a bunch of stuff in there that we don't need at all. And I just, that's why I stay out of the grocery store. But my go-to dish. So my family roots. Again, I'm raised in Blythe, California, but my mother's side of the family, she was born in Monroe, Louisiana, father in Mississippi. And so I spent a lot of time down south. And my go-to dish, my Roosevelt McGee, Rufus McGee, Roosevelt McGee, and that's how they taught me how to make gumbo.
Oh.
Yum.
Louisiana gumbo. And baby, let me tell you, baby, as they say down south, baby, that gumbo, whew, it's something that I can make that, and yeah.
I love gumbo.
Had something to do with that.
I have cousins that live in Louisiana. I love gumbo.
Oh yeah, it's the best. It's the best thing. I think that's probably one of my go-to. Oh, there's a little place now. I love Mexican food as well. So carne asada. And there's this place down in Blythe, California. If you're ever down there, go by. It's called Oscar Stop and Shop, little corner store. And when I tell you they sell the best carne asada and pollo asada that you will. I mean, there are people that literally come from Phoenix that just go to Blythe just to get the carne asada and to bring it back because it is just so tasty. It is just wonderful.
I'm going to have to make a trip to Blythe.
Yeah.
I love carne asada too.
Okay, and the second most uniting thing that we have is music. So what do you, after you've had, because I imagine running this campaign has got to be stressful at times. When you come home, what do you like to put on for music to relax?
So I am very eclectic when it comes down to music. I'm actually a musician. I play the piano, and I still play and sing and do all of that stuff. And so, so I love it. I think on the way home, I'm a quiet car kind of guy, so I'll put on some. I like some Frank Sinatra, something soothing, not too
Cool.
rambunctious, but a little Frank Sinatra. Sometimes some smooth piano jazz or something that's playing. That's kind of mind-soothing stuff. Some of that spa stuff, with, stuff. Now, if I'm trying to turn up, if I'm on my way to a bed, I might put on some Lil Jon. Turn down for what? No.
Yes.
I just love music, period. I love country music. Growing up in Blythe, you gotta, love it. So, I'm a country boy. I love Garth Brooks and Tim McGraw and Alan Jackson and Reba McEntire. All of those. Those older ones. So I love all of that stuff. I'm not much of a rap guy, except for a few songs. You know what I mean? They just kind of, like turn down for what? Who doesn't like that?
Right.
And and then I love gospel music. Love gospel music. And so yeah. But on the way home, very relaxing music. Frank Sinatra is symphony type of stuff. But if I'm getting ready to get hype, I got my hype songs. B-52, Love Shack. That's always a burn.
Sweet. Well, like you said, you've already got our vote, and we're going to put this out and hopefully get more attention to you because you by far are the superior candidate.
Yeah, no question. Hands
opinions.
down.
Thank you so much. And also, and if people want to know, kind of what we were talking about today, I actually wrote a book. It's called The Challenge We Face. It's out on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and out there wherever booksellers are. But it really speaks about moving America forward from the middle. And this is where the nation is, guys. It's not just me, it's the nation. We have the same people there that are qualified, you know what I mean, that have that capacity. Yeah. So it's a good read. And I just wanted, I was telling my campaign manager the other day, it was just an off-the-cuff comment to her. I said, one thing I'm very clear, I've done, public service my whole life. And but never has my heart been more pure than it is now concerning this congressional run. I understand the weight of the responsibility that would be on me if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, particularly in this district where it's heavily Republican, they would be giving me a vote of confidence and trust. And I know what that means. I know the weight and the responsibility. And my heart is pure. Just want to do what's right by the people and for the people.
Okay, so when you win, can we come to your party and you can make gumbo?
Absolutely. You come to the house. That's what, because you gotta, absolutely. I'll make some gumbo and it's gonna be good too. And a punch bowl cake too. Now that's from Louisiana too. Punch bowl cake. It's like cake, but it's in a punch bowl.
Ooh, that sounds good.
It is so good. Now I feel like eating again.
Well, we thank you for coming on and giving us your time on a Sunday evening.
I can't wait to get my ballot.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for the support. Keep spreading the good word up there. And spent a lot of time up in Kingman and Mojave County, and I'm just really concerned about the people up there. Democrats, Independents, Republicans alike. I'm just concerned about people. We can do better. In this election, there is a better choice. We just got to go get all our independent Republican friends, and let's do something different this time.
Hey, as we wrap this up, can we keep you on the phone for a second after we sign off?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. All right, so we'll wrap this up now. Thank you for your time. And
Thank you.
we will be voting for you very soon.
Yep, can't wait.
Okay. All right,
Ready.
well, thank
so
you.
much.
All right. Bye, everybody.